Folks, welcome, welcome. I'm very glad to be here on my second ever solo live stream. Do me a favor. As some of you may be aware, last week or the last time I did this, I had some audio issues. Let me know in the chats right now if you can indeed hear me and my microphone is on and working. Okay, that looks like it's working now. Let me know when you can. I don't want to. Perfect. Okay, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right. So, I'm not a big fan of beating around the bush before we get into the content here, as lots of you may know. So, rather than spend the next 10, 15 minutes saying hello to everyone, I'm going to jump right in. Anyone who missed the beginning, feel free to rewind. Of course, this is going to be posted later on. So, you don't need to just jump in midway through and miss everything else. So some of you may think that this is like a little bit of a clickbaity title, right? Is it time to panic? But I think it's a legitimate question because a lot of people are asking it, and we're no doubt going to see a lot more people asking this question as the months and the year or so runs on, because more of those newbies, more of those naive folks going to be brought to the table. And so right now, I mean, look, don't even talk to me about price right now. It's not a warm and fuzzy place to be when we're looking at our portfolios. And they're not just trading sideways right now. They are trading slightly down and to the right. It's not a warm feeling. But you look at BTC right now, right? You get BTC trading volume at an all-time low. Does that indicate that there's a significant interest right now in BTC? Yeah, maybe. We're in a bear market, right? So there's going to be a significant lack of interest in comparison to a bull market. That's just what happens. Does this potentially doom BTC's future? No, no, it doesn't. I mean, look, lower trading volume, if you want to analyze it and get in the weeds with all this stuff, if BTC is seeing an all time low trading volume, then yes, it's maybe easier to, manipulate the price. Any big players coming in, especially as we're seeing new entities and new institutions with the capacity and now the perceived interest in jumping in and pumping more money into it, it's going to be a little easier for them to start manipulating price a little bit more, something that we should probably assume is going to happen. Um, what could this potentially be? That, people have, for the most part, loaded up, the savvy folks, knowing that we're in a bear market, and the bear market seems to be going on, you know, pretty much, in the same fashion as previous bear markets, sorry, have gone on, albeit we are looking at potentially a bit of a elongation. Although I wouldn't be surprised if it just literally followed the last couple of cycle curves that we've seen. But they may just be loading up, or they may have loaded up already. We really don't know. But I want you to repeat after me, right? Right now, it doesn't matter. We are in a bear market. Anyone being involved in, certainly in our ecosystem, in crypto in general, should now be accumulating, thanking their lucky stars that they get more time to accumulate before we head into the bull cycle. When people start investing in green candles rather than actual unique selling points of projects, the fundamentals that we're all analyzing right now, you're already the savvy folks. So you got to stay strong. It's important to not get affected by the constant and consistent resurgence of the same panic mechanisms on Reddit, on Twitter, you know, more of the less educated folks without their finger on the pulse. Wordplay there, if you like that. There's going to be more of those, and those same questions of, oh my God, what should I be doing? We're still going to be hearing first timers hearing about Richard Hart being sued by the SEC for like months to come because they're not so close to the news. And so they're going to keep regurgitating a lot of the same questions as we see in every single community when new folks come. It just so happens that in crypto, a lot of the savvy people, the more educated people, the people who have already processed this information and dealt with it and set their emotions as they wanted to because they've done their due diligence, they understand patience, they understand cycles, those people become a much smaller voice as that snowball effect comes into play as we start building into the bull cycle. And so it's very important to not get shaken out of a very advantageous situation right now by falling for the same shit that a lot of people us even falling for the same panic mechanisms that we have in the past. And it's very, very important that right now is a time that, hey, you can do what you want with your funds, right? I'm not telling you you should buy, you should sell, you should do whatever you want, but don't let that decision be made by some of these panic mechanisms that are in place, because you should be past that point by now. There's no excuses, right? If you're in the market now, you're already savvier than 99% of the people who are going to jump in a couple of months, in a year or so. You're already in a better situation than them. So if you're now undertaking the process of education, even for the first time, there's no excuse if you're selling out of your position to put yourself in a advantageous situation come bull cycle, because you panicked, you couldn't deal with the emotions, and then you ended up selling out of your positions. Hey, no one's going to help you if that's the case. But I'm here to tell you, from my perspective at least, my opinion, I'm not a maxi on this ecosystem, right? Because to me, when I see the term maxi, or I hear the term maxi, it usually indicates to me someone who typically has their blinkers on, right? They are very narrow-minded. Some would say single-minded, however you want to interpret that. But for me, maxis of any nature, it's somewhat of a derogatory term, because anyone who is a maxi tends to, follow blindly. And I'll tell you, I'm not following blindly. Every single investment that I make, not just in crypto, but in life, in everything, I weigh up the fundamentals. You know me. If you've seen any of my past content before, coming from a VC background, you can't really afford to take things at face value. You can't afford to just join the masses, and sentiment plays a massive part in anything. A strong community is very, very important, and those are factors that go into the decision making process, but it's one of many. And so for me personally, I can tell you that the fundamentals are there, and me seeing lower prices right now is not phasing me. And I'm not trying to be Billy Big Balls here, but I've probably got more money in the market than the majority of people in this ecosystem. I'm probably down a lot more. I'll be transparent. I'm probably down a lot more than a lot of folks out there. It's not really phasing me. And that's not because I have so much money that I can't afford to lose it. No, I want this to do well, just as well as anyone else. But it's a situation where I see the light at the end of the tunnel, and that light is bright and it's burning. And anything that I can do now to save, a lot of people from panic selling, even at a loss, God forbid, right now, is you can thank me in the bull market. We can revisit these conversations. Everyone's going to be, high-fiving, virtually high-fiving. There's going to be so many meetups. All this stuff is going to be great. And you're going to look back in hindsight and think, it wasn't a big deal. But when you're in the moment and you're holding strong through all of this negative sentiment, it is a big deal. And I get it. It's controlling emotions. So I completely get it. But right now, we're in a bear cycle. Yes, some of the narratives, some of the stories, some of the catalysts to this like negative impact in the bear market are slightly different from previous cycles. They always are, but the recipe is always the same. It's just the ingredients that change, right? If you think of it like that, you know, every single bear cycle, there's always some micro and macro news that's negative. It could impact a lot of things. It's going to have a bigger effect than, anything before it. And while I think that there can be some truth to a lot of that, I think the only one right now that we should be paying heed to is the extra interest that the traditional finance groups are paying to Bitcoin right now, whether that comes in and shoots things to the moon this cycle or by the next cycle. Either way, it's a finite amount of time that we have to make the most of this prior to all of that stuff happening, when all the regulations come in, when everyone's, seeing such huge diminished returns because we're not quite in cowboy land like we were before. All this to say, right now, simplify things in your mind. You're just waiting for the bull market. Maybe you've accumulated enough. Maybe you want to continue accumulating. And I'm not even saying put it all in the same ecosystem. You can't really go wrong right now if you're putting them into blue chips, because they're also kind of low. The whole crypto ecosystem is low. But let's talk about some of the options, right? Because right now, if you're thinking about investing, you've already got a position, despite the fact that it may be temporarily losing value. It's a good thing that you're in right now. I keep saying it. It's a good thing. You're essentially the VC here. You are in before the masses. So don't fall for the same shit, because you've already done the harder step, which is securing your position, making yourself more educated about a specific project or projects. This is the time. This is the hardest time. Now, just to hold or to accumulate or do, investing 101, Warren Buffett 101. And I keep saying this, and it may sound cliched, but when others are panicking, be greedy, right? When there's blood in the streets, be greedy. And then when we start seeing giant green candles and everyone's getting excited again, then it's your time to not fall for the same stuff that has caught people off guard. And that's not the time to take out a loan and be like, well, I've already made a bunch of money from this. Let's put some more in to a much bigger extent. That's not the time. That's the time where you start looking at profit taking. And we'll talk about that when the time comes too. But look, I will say this right now, because I'm getting asked a lot in terms of, again, the same question in a multitude of different ways. Should we be panicking? What would you do? I can only tell you the way I look at things. And while I can speak until the cows come home about the unique selling points of this ecosystem of Pulschain, PulseX, and HEX, both chains, while we've spoken about those things at nauseum, it always comes down to simplifying for me and making it easier on yourself. You don't need to be sat on your laptop or on your phone checking Twitter every 5 minutes for the latest and greatest breaking news that one of your favorite influencers pumps out. We can go back to it does not matter right now. Unless something catastrophic black swan events happen right now, it simply does not matter. So I would say this, right? When looking at folks right now, and I'm going to categorize these into two categories. Both categories, in my mind, tick the box of savvy, simply because they're interested and taking positions now. That fact alone positions you way ahead of every man and his dog who's going to be jumping in as soon as bull market comes around because they don't know better. Anyone in these two categories knows better. And I'm going to say those two categories really are folks who want to take speculative gambles, albeit, having done your research, analyzed all the fundamentals, all those good things, speculative gambles, speculative investments, let's say, because it's not gambling if you're doing your due diligence. Everything's speculative in this world to a certain extent. So I'm going to say speculative investments that could yield really big returns, or less speculative blue chip investments that will yield less return, but you already have money, so you're not concerned about making a fortune right now. So essentially, these two groups are people who need to make a lot of money, people who already have a lot of money. And there are a ton of different personality types, personas that fit both these categories. But essentially, if you boil it down to those two, it's going to help you simplify your investment strategy going forward. Now, for the majority of us, for the majority of investors out there, if you don't have a lot of money, if you don't have the ability or the freedom or the you're not in the luxurious position that you simply want to keep your money. And when I say keep, I'm not talking about keeping the same amount like you would in an investment, sorry, in a savings account. I'm talking about staying ahead of inflation, making a 2, 3, 5x on your money, because ultimately you have big numbers to play with anyway. You're putting them in, hopefully what are less speculative positions, like a Bitcoin, right? Like an Ethereum, hell, even like a Link. I mean, you look at some of the price movement performance last season and this season now, we're looking at where people are thinking, hey, that could even do a 20x, right? But essentially, these two groups are two very different mindsets. Now, for the most people out there who want to make a lot of money, you don't have too many options, right? If you're going to look at the options that are out there, that you believe in what they're bringing to crypto as a whole, the use case, the pain points they're filling, the community, the leadership, all of those stuffs that you'd hopefully look at when looking into any investment, it's going to be tough, in my opinion, to beat the Richard Hart ecosystem, right? So even if you're panicking right now a little bit because the price movement is doing this, and then we have, the SEC getting involved and suing people, and if you ultimately just break it down to the unique selling points and the risk reward ratio inherent in a Pulschain, PulseX, HEX investment, in my opinion, me looking into crypto as someone who invests in a lot of different areas and taking the same approach to everything else, it's very tough to beat, in all honesty. It very much is. So that's what you got to think about when you're looking at a down market right now as we can. And if you're too scared to accumulate, I'm still accumulating, right? And I've run out of dry powder a while ago, so I'm month to month accumulating right now. But if you're accumulating, or if you're just simply holding on to what you have, I think you'll be all right. I mean, look, everyone says it because it's important to keep noting that they're not financial advisors, right? I'm not a financial advisor. I'm looking at this as, how do we make as much money as we possibly can by investing into something that has all the unique selling points and the drive to get there. And there's all those things we've talked about in the past. It's the community. It's an intelligent founder who's not, outrage marketing anymore. It's solving a pain point within crypto as a whole. It's also playing into a narrative of the importance of decentralization, control, all of those things that are going to be more important when we start seeing these institutional monies coming in. And I'm not talking about the people who are going to be buying those spot ETFs. They're their own demographic. They're not crypto people. They're just wanting to make some money on crypto by having someone else manage their interest. Fine. We need that money, and it's the big money. I'm talking about the people who are matriculating through the system, who are being educated as they go. Some people already at that position where they value something like a decentralized exchange, or as rare as they are now, or a decentralized and controlled way to manage your portfolio, to buy, to sell, to keep. Those are also going to increasing numbers because we're seeing folks who were entry level who are matriculating through the system. They're becoming more educated, and they're moving on down. And so we are, in my opinion, perfectly positioned to get that, get those people, take that market share. Now we have the second group, right? We have the second group who already have money. They're already looking to, and I know a lot of these folks who aren't necessarily that interested in their opinion, rolling the dice. They want to get involved in a Bitcoin. And look, it doesn't matter what blue chips you're getting into right now. If they are indeed blue chips, that means they've been around the block a few times. They've made some, partnerships, use cases. The sentiment's looking as good as anything else, and we're looking forward to them actually being an integral part of crypto going forward. If you're investing into those right now, you can't really go wrong. It's going to be tough to lose money, but you're not going to get the astronomical. And I'm using that term just because for a lot of us, a 10x, a 20x, a 50x, a 100x, that's astronomical returns, certainly compared to any other investment vehicle out there. And so you're not going to get those, right? But does that mean you should stay away from them? If you're looking to make yourself feel better right now, and this is going to be a little bit of a, let's say, unorthodox approach to something in the Pulschain ecosystem, because a lot of people are very gung-ho about only this ecosystem. And I think you can be, but you don't have to bank everything on it. If you wanted to hedge your portfolio, you're still dollar cost averaging, but you feel like just to make yourself feel emotionally better right now, you want to take a piece in Bitcoin, in Ethereum, Elrond, Cardano, Link, Sheeb, XRP. There are still opportunities to be had there. Don't get me wrong. I mean, look, if you're looking at Bitcoin right now, what is it at? 29, 28,000. That goes to 100K. Well, it's over a 3x. It's almost a 3.5x, right? That's not bad. That's fantastic if you have a couple $100,000 in the market and that's what your investment was. Hey, you can do a lot with that. If you've got a couple grand in the market, I wouldn't waste my time. And look, I don't care who you are. You could be a paper boy. A couple grand in the market is nothing. It's nothing unless you turn it into something. And the only way you turn it into something is by investing into something that has the ability to drastically improve your portfolio value. Something like a HEX, something like a Pulschain, PulseX, in my opinion, has that. Same with Ethereum, right? Ethereum's what, 1,800, 1,900 right now. Say that does do a 10x plus. That's a 5x. Same rules apply, right? It's not a 3x. It's better than that. But ultimately, you've got to have a big piece of the pie in order for that to make a difference to you. Because I'm telling you, you may win $1 million. And I say that use the word win because that's essentially what you're doing. You're winning, right? You may make $1 million in crypto, and that's fine. That's fantastic. But even at that amount, it doesn't even matter if you're living in a trailer park right now, and that's going to change your life. At that point, you're not going to buy a house. You're not going to buy cars. I mean, you may do, but you're going to have to be pretty frugal about it. If you want to use that money as the main catalyst to sort yourself out for life, well, you've got to invest that tactfully. And let me tell you, $1 million invested, you're not living at the Ritz. If you're doing it properly, you're living on residual income, or at least you're building yourself new opportunities for the future. You've still got to be frugal. It's not enough. And so you really have no option. If this is your pathway to success and you judge success as having a lot of money, if you're not playing with big chunks of money to begin with, then that's not the investment for you. I'm not saying it won't do well and it won't hedge your portfolio, but if ultimately it's a couple grand, what are you doing? You're in this ecosystem now. You got in nice and early. You're taking your time to learn about it. Why the hell would you sell for those kind of returns? Now, something different for an Elrond, for instance. I'm just picking this out of the air, but that was, I think I looked at it. I made a note here of what it was. I think it was like a $30, was it? People are anticipating that going to $1,000. If you believe in that ecosystem, that's a 33x. Now, would I be happy with a 33x with Pulschain? And I'm just picking one out of the ecosystem, and same rules apply for every one of them. HEX, both chains, PulseX and Pulschain. Would I be happy with a 33x? No, that's a failure for me. Now, look, even for me, I have a decent amount of change in there. It'll probably, it'll help me get involved in some other financial vehicles, some other investments, but I'm not partying. I'm not buying a Lambo with that, am I? So these are things you have to think about. If you're looking for, and look, there are meme coins out there too, right? There are, you can argue they have use cases, but something like a SHIB, if that even does a 90x or 100x, do you think that if SHIB is doing a 90x, Pulse Chain's not doing a lot more than that? I mean, you got to weigh these things up. So, I mean, look, I don't want to keep drilling this point home. My point is consistent here because I keep seeing more and more people talking about being in panic mode, and it's fine. Look, you're not going to save everyone. In fact, um, you're not going to save most people, which is great, right? At the end of the day, we're not here to save people. We're here to make money. That may sound taboo to a lot of you, but quite honestly, if I'm doing okay from my investments, sucks for you, but you had the information. You had the information. So that's quite literally all you can say. I'm doing my best to put out some content that helps kind of keep that sentiment going. And I'm not just I don't want you to think of this as lip service. Hey, I've got some big bags. I'm trying to protect it. I mean, look, the minuscule amount of people in the grand scheme of things watching this stream is not going to change my bags, right? But anyone who is watching it right now, anyone who is a part of this ecosystem, um, let me save you right now, right? Look, I understand that a lot of you in this chat right now, even you're on the same page. I'm not saving you. I'm just telling you what you already know. So maybe you're not the audience for that specific message. But look, let that sink in because it is important to keep reaffirming that too. Another thing I wanted to touch on, and this was really coming down to Richard Hart not streaming anymore. And you may have heard me on several other streams in the past with other people too, saying that I do think that it would be beneficial should he come back and stream, right? And I want to put that into context because I saw Crypto Coffee stream a little while ago where he was talking about the fact he's not streaming right now isn't necessarily a bad thing. And I totally agree with that too, just to be honest with you. Now, the fact is, right, if you analyze crypto, not just crypto, any blue chip company in any industry, you will see that the founder, they're not putting out live streams every day, right? They're not, you don't have that much access and transparency with them. Elon Musk may be a bit of an outlier, but as you probably agree, that's a very different dynamic. To a lot of people out there, not just they don't have as much time, right? But when they're in front of the camera, it seems a little thirsty if it's too much. And for any of the investors that, we know that for everyone who got involved in this ecosystem already, the fact that he was streaming all the time, it didn't put anyone off. Well, this is not the audience I'm talking about. We're already here. We already understand it, right? We're looking to take albeit smaller percentage of a much larger audience segment, right? And so I really do think that there's a lot to be said about an owner and a founder taking a bit of a backward step and adding a little bit more perceived gravitas to themselves. Because ultimately, I also understand that people coming in, especially from traditional finance world, if someone is shelling their own project consistently, it seems thirsty and they lose respect. Fact, right? As intelligent as Richard Hart is, as much sense as he speaks, there's a reason why Vitalik isn't doing that, right? And look, I'm not saying that, these guys could dress like Steve Jobs. They'll do a stream every now and again. A lot of it is with major kind of, media outlets, let's say. So the dynamic's already changing. They'll have a veneer in front of the camera. They will sound very buttoned up. They may even do it themselves, like Charles Hodgkin does, where he's he's in his office even. I'm not saying that the minute the camera shuts off, they're not kind of taking their trousers off and running next door to rejoin the orgy. That's up to them, right? They, but in all seriousness, there is a lot to be said for being still relevant, and I think he's doing that. He's giving us some information about projects, about the industry as a whole. He's tweeting. He's doing it in a way that's a little bit more respectful. We've said goodbye to the guy who was dressed as Willy Wonka with a beer can dick. Like, no one's interested in seeing you twerk, bro. Certainly not serious investors. And is now the time to pull away? Probably, right? We need a big enough leading time to the bull market where everything matters more of, him being normal. It doesn't help that we just had a documentary in that respect. I'm not saying it doesn't bring attention in other ways, and it's good in a number of different areas. Does it create a visage of a person who is a trusted investment vehicle? No, that doesn't help, right? Which, to my point, is that if he's going to talk to us, it has to be kind of soon. And I don't think it's a bad thing if he's talking. And I understand there's probably legal implications in doing this, so I don't imagine he'll do it. But talking to us, albeit in more of a reserved capacity, probably would go down a lot better for the temporary price performance, right? If he's going to come in, tell us not to worry about the SEC, give us all warm, fuzzy feelings. Certainly, everyone here now who may have gotten shaken out, and a lot of people may have gotten shaken out. And I'm not talking about the diehard fans here, or the diehard kind of Richard Hart unique selling point gurus who understand crypto, they understand investments. I'm talking about the people who no doubt have been shaken out. It may help bring a few of those back temporarily, right? And so that may help position us in advance of the bull market a little better. So if he's going to come back, maybe it's not now, right? Maybe it is kind of a couple of months out from where that perceived bull market begins. He's good at calling tops and bottoms, as he likes to keep saying, or used to like to keep saying. So maybe he does that. Maybe that's part of the ethos there. But I think being too transparent, as he has been, is not good for business long term. It reminds me of Will Smith, right? Now we all know the shenanigans that have gone on with Will Smith, and the craziness with his family, his kids, his wife, his all that, the slap and everything there. Um, I heard an argument a little while ago, not an argument, more of a viewpoint, in that Will Smith came to prominence in a time where, media in general, the internet in general, wasn't quite as transparent as it used to be. This guy grew up and came up in a way that he was able to really cultivate what his image was, right? You didn't get behind the scenes looks at him or any other celebrity, really. You may hear something really bad in the news that happened to make it through their fixes and wasn't able to keep a control of. Epstein, look at him. He not Epstein, sorry. Who's the producer? You know what I'm talking about. But look, even that went on for years and years before he got unveiled, right? Because they had more control in place. And Will Smith really, really, nobody judged that guy. He was the nicest guy in the world. He still maybe, right? But he had a message, he had a brand, and he cultivated that to the max. Fast forward into the years where things are a little bit more transparent. He wanted to take a stab at getting out in front of, the public in different, more, vulnerable ways, and shit kind of fell apart, right? Because he ultimately didn't have that control. Things got out of place. It may have weighed down on his mind. A lot of this stuff adding to the pressure, the anxiety, and look what happened, right? There's things of, his kids entering the limelight and all the weirdness going on there. And I don't want to judge him or anything, but it goes to say that even celebrities in that regard can fall apart from a marketing perspective with too much transparency. Now, you throw into the mix someone who wants to be a financier, or at least like someone offering financial crypto, I'll use the word crypto, mechanisms to improve, people's well-being. It's probably all the more important to have that controlled. And I think he's even late to the game in that front, right? I get it. He needed to make a name for himself, and who knows? He wouldn't even be on the radar if he wasn't dressed like Willy Wonka. But now he is on the radar, and to the point where he's on the SEC's radar. So I get both sides. I do agree. Long-term price performance, feasibility, gravitas, all of that stuff is really going to improve the more distance that he makes between himself and us and everyone else. But it depends what, again, we have a longer term time frame in mind than just the beginning of the bull market, right? So it's important for us to really figure out what's more important to us, right? Our temporary feel good, warm and fuzzies, or we actually want to make some money and we're grown up enough to hold on to our bags, if not add to them at times when we know a lot of the naive, less educated folks out there aren't, right? So, what else? I did make some notes. What else I wanted to touch on here, but I literally don't pay attention to them, so that's not good. So that's it. I mean, look, what I wanted to touch on was, and I'll get to any of the comments in the comments section, but distractions. I know I sent a video out like last time. It didn't really get any views. I mean, certainly compared to everything else, quite simply because unless it has Pulschain to the moon, nobody's interested in reading it. But I will say this, right? This isn't an easy time. This isn't a time where everyone should be, surprised at how difficult it is to hold on to your bags or add to your bags at a time where there's a lot of sentiment volatility. there's a lot of negativity that's spiraling. It's like a vortex. And when it kicks off, it really does snowball. You kind of got to put that to the back of your mind, right? Put it out in the universe that, you're anticipating the bull market. You're anticipating those real happy moments coming. And right now, turn your portfolio off. Don't sabotage yourself emotionally. Don't wake up every day with sleepless nights. Certainly, if you have a couple grand in the market, shit, what are you going to do? You have no option but to roll the dice, right? If you have a bigger perspective, a bigger position, and you're kind of worrying about price performance right now, do what I'm doing. Don't look at it every day. I mean, look, it's hard not to look at Twitter because while you're looking at other things, you're going to get fed into your story. So whatever. I mean, look, as long as you're able to be mature enough to um, prioritize your thought process, it's fine. But look, it doesn't help. It doesn't hurt. Sorry, to take a step back from all of that stuff too. I talked about it, fitness, right? I mean, look, that's a big one. That's something that I've certainly been lazy with recently. But I do think that it's important. It's important to get your head right, your body right for the good times. You're imagining being on a boat. Oh, imagine being on a boat shirtless, or if you're a girl, with a bikini on or whatever, or shirtless, whatever you want. But just imagine that and how much better it's going to feel. Something you have complete control of. Hedge your emotional, state that way. You don't really have the most control over your portfolio. That's outside measures, right? But you do have control over your own self health. You can do that. And that distraction, can really be anything. Start a venture, do something that excites you. It can be really anything, right? And I think that, part of that distraction too can even be productive for all things crypto. And this is something that I'll touch on more in our videos, but start looking into things like tax ramifications, how you prepare for any significant gains you have. Because I'm telling you, the folks who make the money are the ones who hold strong during a bear season, the ones who set their positions early at a time where everyone is panicking. Those typically are the ones with the fairy tale stories. So if you've already told yourself that that's going to be you, well, the next step is to make sure you're prepared for it, right? So that's going to help put out in the universe a heck of a lot more as well. That means figuring out which banking institutions are the most crypto friendly and going through the process of being a part of them. I'm telling you, I'm a part of a bunch and it takes time. It takes a couple of weeks, months at least, right? Especially as you should be looking at, other jurisdictions, let's say. Some people think of offshore banking, regardless of where you are, as a taboo subject. No, it's not. You got to protect yourself. You don't just have banks around the corner. That's an easy way to put yourself in a really precarious situation should the worst happen. You want to make sure that you're venturing into other areas, and you don't have to be James Bond to do so. You just need to be a person looking to protect themselves. That's quite literally it. There's nothing wrong with doing it. So take a look. We'll do some videos in this too. Randy Halasky actually put me in touch with one that I've had good experience with so far in Tower Bank in Panama. Um, Decent. Still early days. I'm still just testing them out. The things you got to be aware of is just what happens when your money's there, where it how is it kept, how are you able to spend it, how do you change that in between fiat and crypto if you need to. All those things more and more banks are becoming very, very accustomed to, and you don't need to look inside the US or wherever you are just to do that. In fact, I would say that the US seem to be behind in a lot of those areas. So surely if you're spending so much time being interested in crypto, with most of your net worth potentially in crypto, most of your investment interest and passion in crypto, well, you got to think about post investment too. It's not good enough just to look at your portfolio and see you've made some money. You got to know what to do with it after that point. So spend some time educating yourself on that front. And that doesn't mean, getting deluged with day to day breaking news about the Richard Hart ecosystem. That means venturing into other areas of finance. And they're very, very interesting. If you're interested in this, you're sure as shit going to be interested in, what else goes in to creating wealth, to creating control. Anyone who's interested in decentralization, control, well, shit, you got to figure out how to do that in the real world too, right? And I know this is the real world, but just some friendly advice there in terms of what that actually means when we do hit a bull cycle and everyone's panicking because they don't know what to do with it, and you end up not selling or not exiting your positions or taking even little bits of profit in the right way. If you're again, if we're say we look at a 200x, 300x, 1000x, well, look, it doesn't matter how much money you have in. You can have a couple $100. You're all of a sudden looking at a decent chunk of change, and taking profits could be the difference between changing your life and not changing your life, depending on how you did that, what tax you paid, all of that stuff. So it's very, very important. I don't want to dwell on that, but you know where I'm going. All right, let's look at some comments. I'm sorry, guys. I rambled on a lot there. Humberto, yeah, yeah, Tower Bank, man. I wasn't aware of that until Randy talked about it, and yeah, it was good. And I told him actually, I didn't even need to go there. You can open it up remotely. You don't need to go in. You got to jump through some hoops like you do with most others, but very, very easy. Excuse me, I got a bit of a cough this today as well. Well, here's the thing, right? Are you a coke dealer? That's a whole different ball game, right? You even get the Panama Papers and all that stuff. I'm not talking about doing shady stuff. I'm talking about legally hedging your bets, right? Swiss bank accounts used to be the gold mine. Used to be you get a numbered account and it's all kind of anonymous. That doesn't really exist anymore. Or at least if you do it legally, it doesn't exist. So look, I'm not saying you gotta put yourself in a precarious situation when any of these jurisdictions, but it definitely does add if you're again, you do like the same with everything else. You're doing due diligence. You're finding the best banks, the ones that have the great reps, the ones that are able to protect you in some way, shape, or form. It's like an LLC, or any kind of corporate entity or shelf company. It's like you get involved in it to protect yourself, adding other layers of protection. This is all this is. Jordy, 80%. You know what? I'm even more than that. Yeah, I'm about 85, 90% to be honest with you. And I'm happy about it too. Look, and on paper, I should be crying right now, but I'm not. It doesn't matter. Yeah, I don't care. Right now, I really don't care. You're going to get a lot of crybabies out there, a lot of people who are naive, a lot of people who've never been through a cycle before, a lot of people just jumping into the communities because they're maxis of other communities. I don't fall for that anymore. Same as I'm not going to fall for any of the media manipulation that's going to take place as we start getting closer to the bull cycle. It's not in our best interest. I didn't spend my last, um, you know, few cycles educating myself just to fall for the same stuff that I used to fall for. That's insane, right? That's not improving. Let's see. Completely right. Again, agree with this. Can I please speak to buying Richard Hart products inside a Roth vehicle versus a taxable wallet for profit taking? No. And I'll tell you why. Because every situation is very different. And I'll say this, right? I'm not a financial advisor, but something you should do your research on. It may sound rosy and tax saving up front to spend taxed or protected funds in a Roth vehicle, but there are a number of disadvantages to this, right? Firstly, you're probably still ultimately paying more tax when it comes time to take profit, whether it's part of your Roth or not, because it's different asset classes too. And there's a lot of, you think they're not going to pick holes in that. But secondly, why would you tie it up in the same way? Yeah, it depends on how much money you have in there, right? But why would you want to tie up all of that money? And again, this is unorthodox. If you speak to someone who's a real big about staking ladders and all that stuff, I'm not big into that right now. I came too late to the game. I'm all about liquidity, right? I want to be liquid when I want. Not to say that I won't take up, some staking positions in the future, but right now I'm looking for the freedom to do with my money what I want. And if it's tied up in a Roth and I'm just trying to save a couple dollars on that tax side of things, I'm probably going to miss out on the better tax savings that can come through treating it as a crypto. So I wouldn't muddy the waters, to be honest with you. Again, then maybe you speak to someone who will have a lot more experience there for your specific needs. But for me, it doesn't make sense. Um, my question: what are your thoughts on the EU approval of a BTC? I think approvals around the globe are inevitable, right? Not just Europe, and that's great, but it's like it's inevitable. The US are just sandbagging right now because they're trying to get their ducks in a row, and so we know the SEC are behind. And and it's because they're trying to make sure that they're getting their controlled ducks in a row as soon as possible. But ultimately, a lot of those control mechanisms are going to come in on the front end of the ETFs themselves. For anyone who's been in crypto for more than 2 minutes, that's not the way you're going to enter the market, right? We already know the ways in which we're entering the market. So that's not our catchment area. I think all BTF approvals are going to be great for an influx of big money coming into the ecosystem, but that's not what we're looking to capture. We're looking to gain market share of the folks who are matriculating through crypto, the people who have been in for a little while that are getting more educated. Hell, they may even come in this cycle, but just learn fast. And they've already graduated from entry level ETFs, or they don't want to be the person who's having all of their funds managed by someone else who they know is making a ton of money from it because they're doing it the way we are. I think it for our purposes right now. I don't care about it. I'm just happy more money's coming into the system, and we are primed to leverage that money coming in before the next cycle and the next cycle, where a lot more of those control mechanisms are also going to work their way through the rest of crypto as well. We're already seeing it now, of course, but the SEC are learning as they go too. They're trying to pick holes in a bunch of different projects and ecosystems and cryptos and whatever you want to call them or label them, and they're going to be picking their battles. And you think that right now we just it's just being pushed out or whatever it is till next year, of course, right? They're sandbagging, they're having internal conversations. You've got some of the biggest institutions in the world talking about coming in. They're going to want to they're going to want to control that as much as possible. But right now, luckily, ETFs are not where we should be concerning ourselves, for us in this community at least. Some of you maybe, but for the majority of us, it's more about the people who are graduating into the kinds of areas of crypto that we play in. And that's going to be a lot of people. There's going to be a lot more money coming in, and that money always makes its way down. Let me see. Well, it's a bold statement. I agree with it. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they're the safest. I think maybe Bitcoin's probably technically the safest, just because it's got a lot of gravitas. But look, it's the safest for keeping control of your funds for sure. How much those funds hold value will be dictated coming the next bull cycle, but I am very, very bullish about that. I'll tell you, I'm not afraid to say it. A lot of people seem to be backing off from their earlier predictions of how price performance is going to play out. I think we'll all be very happy campers, to say the least. Just a reminder: feel free to hit the like. I'm not very, very, very familiar with doing these live streams just yet, and so I don't know how that works with the algorithm. I know it's good for it, so feel free to do it if you can. Do you think RH declines to answer SEC complaint, thereby causing an initial decision in favor of the SEC? There are so many elements here. I really don't know. I mean, look, we've heard people throwing around the idea of him settling super early on just to sweep it under the carpet. Do I see Richard Hart, someone who has a message and his whole ethos is built around fighting the man and giving control and settling? Well, I don't know. It'd probably be a lot more contrarian to everything else he's done, which may not be good long term for how people think about the ecosystem and him. I probably see him using this as a way to gain momentum. Maybe. I really don't know. There are so many different ways this could play out. Hell, look at the Pulschain launch, right? We all thought we had 1,000,001 different ways that we thought that would play out, and it didn't go the way we wanted it to. Again, knowing the time in the market and all of that stuff, I don't think it matters long term. But I don't know. There's a lot of things to talk about here, or to speculate about, and it's not worth me giving my opinion because I don't think it's going to hold any weight, or it's not going to, it's not going to be anywhere near accurate. Okay, fast forward 6 months. Is there a minimum price you would expect to see for Pulschain that would not make you rethink your? That would not make you rethink your investment. Okay, so what price you would expect to see for Pulschain that would not make you rethink your investment? Um, in 6 months, it would take a lot of negative price, or not even in 6 months. I mean, look, a lot can change in 6 months, honestly, but I still probably wouldn't be rethinking my investment at that point. 9 months, maybe. I mean, look, these things always tend to push out longer than we think. We all have timelines in mind. And again, kind of learning from past experience, looking at how these things have notoriously pushed out. Look at the sacrifice phase, right? We've become conditioned to almost expect an elongated process now. And a lot of people already are talking about this potential bull cycle, a bear cycle being a little longer. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. Who knows, right? But I don't know in terms of price performance. It's going to come down to the moment, to be quite honest with you, right? Because while we can calculate what that return on investment would be, like most people, I got in at the sacrifice, right? So honestly, anything above sacrifice at that point, and I'm feeling kind of okay about it, providing that not everything else is sky high at that point. If we are the only ecosystem sitting at near entry levels for ourselves, while everything else is skyrocketing, well, okay, something's up, right? Either something black swanish has happened within our ecosystem. We're just not gaining the trust or the gravitas that we should be. We're setting ourselves short in some way. I just don't see that happening because we have a very active and informed community, right? And so as we start seeing various other things growing, I really do think that we'll be riding the coattails of a lot of those communities just because we have folks who aren't ashamed to kind of to do that. Um, so yeah, I know that didn't really answer your question, but anything really above sacrifice at that point, providing nothing else has skyrocketed and we're potentially waiting still for the bull cycle, great. If the bull cycle's already kicked off, I don't know. I mean, look, I would like to at least, if other things are skyrocketing, for me personally, 100x or below in like 9 months after or 9 months down the road, 100x maybe by then. See, it all depends. It all depends on where we are in the cycle. Like we can only analyze that in the moment where we are in the cycle. So yeah, I don't, I really don't know if things have really kicked off. I would expect us to see some really good returns. If the market is slower to pick back up, then I'm not going to be too concerned as long as we're not kind of too much of a deficit. Okay, let me see this. If you have 20K right now and you're holding a lot of Pulse, I would move at least half into fiat. It's a good leverage bet on Pulse. No, I mean, I don't know what to say about that. I would probably keep it where it is. I mean, there aren't, like I said, there aren't many projects out there that are hopefully going to do as much with the same risk reward ratio. But I guess it's up to you, Jordy. Yes, please smash the like. It would be great. Anything else you guys want to ask? Because I don't want to keep this stream going for too long. I'm not a big fan of like just rolling on for the sake of conversation. I want you guys to, certainly get as much value as you can out of me if you value my opinion. Um, okay, sorry, I just did see in this, Keith. Related to Richard Hart's question, Corey reckons that Richard Hart's tweets seem to suggest defense. Any thoughts on this apparent positioning? Honestly, no. I mean, look, I could just tweets or not, I think that just going off his own persona and his whole ethos, it seems to be really built around a core of fighting the man. And so a defense is, I mean, and when you say suggest a defense, do you mean a defense in the lawsuit to fight it? Or do you mean playing defensively and maybe going for a settlement? I'm assuming you mean coming up with a defense in for the lawsuit and therefore going through the process of that. And yeah, I think, I mean, I'm not sure what you're referring to there, but I think that it would make sense. And honestly, it would give me, as much as some people would say, price performance, the better this is done and dusted with and we move past, the better for price. Maybe, but there's a silver lining to also continuing on with the court case because it strengthens Richard's Hart's ethos. At the end of the day, that's what a lot of us stand for, right? And I'm not saying stand for because that's all we care about. I don't. I care about the return on investment. But that seems to be a good mechanism to ingratiate to the folks who have put trust in his ecosystem so far. And by that, I mean, like, if he was to fight this, it's pretty in keeping with everything he's been talking about, everything he's fighting for. And providing he puts more effort into marketing or at least being visible more, maybe on mainstream media, he's really going to be able to drive that message home better than any of us, right? Because I get that he's more a case of, oh, we got a strong community. If you want to see it, you do it. You want to buy a billboard, you buy a billboard. Fine. I can't go on Joe Rogan. You can't, chat to Elon Musk. Someone under the microscope of the SEC fighting the good fight is going to be able to be on Fox News, right? And so that's where I think he's bringing the most value. And if we are in a fight, he's a very intelligent guy. He scales back a lot of the rubbing the wrong way kind of appearance and visage. I think that could be turned into a positive, and I think that that's really where we get a lot of momentum because it's not, it's on the back of an XRP, right? Which that may do some great things this bull cycle. We don't know, but like it's not gonna have the negative as much negativity or skepticism out of the gates as XRP does because they already went through the ringer. They essentially lost, and it's the SEC are losing respect. And I think we can all of this coupled with the unique selling points of our ecosystem, and I think that we can use that to our advantage if we do get in front, or if he gets in front of a lot of that mainstream media. Yeah, glad man. Sorry, yeah, a lot of these questions too. I mean, obviously, without being coincidentally, I do have a law degree, not one in the US. I didn't do the what is it called, the whatever you take to the, not the bar, but there's like something you need to do before the bar to kind of transfer your degree over to here. But I didn't do that, and I didn't want to be a lawyer either, just because it's really really boring, and you can make more money doing other things. Bar exam, yeah, that's it. Well, it's before the bar. It's like a conversion course you've got to do before you do the bar exam. But by then, I ended up graduating law school in the UK, and then being headhunted. That sounds obnoxious. I was at a networking event for, long story short, for legal reasons, just to network and see which firm I wanted to join, and got picked out by BlackRock and ended up being sold on the dream of BlackRock, which was, I mean, it was fine. I loved it. Hey, crypto stylist. Yeah, I just realized that you were the one who mentioned that. Glad to have you here. But yeah, long story short, law was boring. All the interesting bits of law don't actually pay as much. Criminal, the stuff that does pay, like tax and corporate law, is too boring for me, so I didn't want to do it. Okay, Key, what do you say? A defense versus a lawsuit. I get what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, look, either or. I think, look, if I'm sure, I'm hoping that he handles it the right way, depending on which route he goes down. I was just pointing out, I guess, that there are silver linings for both courses. Whether it's an actual lawsuit or just like heading it off at the pass. Either way, we can really turn that to our benefit because, again, the core components of our ecosystem in general play towards a lot of the narratives that are easy to get the general public behind. Freedom, control. Everyone wants to get behind that, right? We'd hope. Okay, let me see. What things are you anticipating as top signals? What would your heart tell us again on live stream? Decide for ourselves. That's the question. I would love him to tell us ourselves, but again, that plays into the whole, maybe he's going to come across too thirsty to a lot of people who we want to be part of the ecosystem if he's live streaming these top events. Um, I don't know. Maybe this is like a hybrid approach, right? Maybe if he's able to get in front of some actual mainstream media and say a lot of this stuff, great. And there's more of a chance of doing that now than probably ever before, just because it's taken seriously by the SEC, and like, again, it's not Willy Wonka in front of the camera pimping his wares out, right? It's a little bit different, and so I hope that he's able to kind of showcase his intelligence in a bit more of an affable manner on some. I mean, look, it could be a live stream. I don't know if it's going to come directly from him. Maybe it's like he picks out someone has a bit more I don't want to say gravitas, but maybe like a certain image that he's able to relay this information to with a big following. But I don't know. In terms of top signals, there are so many macro events in play right now. I mean, those ETFs being one of them. I think that as soon as some of that starts looking like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, which it already does, to be honest with you. And look, everyone knows that it's a bit of a waiting game. Fidelity, BlackRock, all those guys are still getting their ducks in a row, just the same way that I think it's almost a pretty done thing, right? However you want to look at it's 65% chance of happening. It's irrelevant right now. I think it's going to happen. It's definitely going to happen eventually. But I also think that that's one of the top signals because that's going to reinvigorate a lot of the dumb money, and I say dumb, the institutional money who's not quite living quite so day to day in the crypto world, and they want to see that any synergy between traditional finance and crypto happening, or at least visibly happening, so that like the majority of general sentiment can be pointing in the right direction. That's when we'll start seeing some top signals. But or sorry, the start of a bull cycle. Top signals, as always, it's going to be green candles. And you can do that yourself just by going outside and hearing your bus driver or your taxi driver or someone on the street talking about crypto. That's a pretty good indicator that, oh, okay, the world is going crypto mad. It may be time to start taking some money out now. This is a question for Corey. Is Corey in here? I didn't see. See, this is how bad I am at live streams. I still haven't really figured out how to navigate the comments in a way that actually tells me who's in and who's not. Crypto status. We still need to figure out when we're going to do our stream. By the way, I know we're probably both being super busy as well, but maybe we can arrange that soon. I guess I'm open to do that whenever. See, this is a good question too. Well, not a good question. This is one that I should really have a better answer for in terms of INC. Honestly, I don't care about it. And that's going to sound, yeah, it does look juicy right now. But the way I measure the fundamentals of kind of where how happy I am with the ecosystem are with the core, and I use the word core loosely, but with the 3, 4 tokens that I'm in. I'm not in it, so I'm not. I don't want to say anything on that just because I don't think you'll get much value from it. But my philosophy in general is to simplify things, and I think I've done that with my own portfolio. And right now, Ink is not in it. Do you think we should try and attract builders from other chains on the Pulse chain? Absolutely, always. I mean, look, the more interaction, the more integrity or integral kind of nature Pulse chain has to crypto, right? The larger we make that footprint, the bigger the impact. And so, yeah, I think attracting builders is a no-brainer. I think we are doing that. I think that it's a cheaper, easier ecosystem than most right now. And I think a lot of these are going to follow suit as soon as we start seeing some of the promised projects take place on Pulse Chain come to fruition and start doing well. And we'll again, when bull market swings back around, we're going to see an influx of this happening because ultimately, we've all heard software is hard. Software is not that hard. Like, no, I got to be careful what I say. I'm not a software developer, so I have no right to say that. But you'll see that the difficulty of software probably gets a lot shorter, and things get expedited a little quicker when we're in the bull cycle, when everyone's trying to really capitalize when the iron's hot. So I wouldn't be surprised, and a lot of scams are going to come from that, obviously. But I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing a real big influx of things made in short order, which is going to add again to convincing more and more folks that they should be building on this chain because it's going to be around for a while. It's no longer going through its litmus period, all that good stuff that goes into any company that actually wants to build something that we can use that's going to be useful doing so. Yep, good point. Hex sailing for sure. Great as well, Archie. Agree. And like, while I say that I'm not staking right now. I'm just being transparent. I'm not. In my opinion, I kind of gotten a little late, and I wanted to be as liquid as possible. Perhaps I'm not, the guy you speak to about staking. Quite honestly, I think price in itself is going to do very well. That's kind of what my portfolio is resting on more so right now. I will probably end up staking as time goes on. At some point, I'm just not now. So I get what you're saying though, and I see the hex yield being great. I see the staking ladders making a lot of sense. Speaking to a lot of folks who are really into that, like Johnny Chaos, for instance, has a lot of really good stuff to say about, why it's good. And I understand it and I like it. It's just, I'm not there right now. Maybe it's because I'm maybe a different type of investor, but as we say in the UK, different horses for different courses. Okay. It's a good question, Hazel. When you do start to dollar cost out in the bear, can you give any ideas of where to put your profit while waiting for the bear to return? Ooh, I'm in Europe, so we're thinking euro stable coins. Okay. Well, this is a very good question. And that is, I love the fact that you're looking at this as you should, right? Dollar costing out and what to do with your profit while you're waiting for the bear, aka the best buying season that we're in now, to get back in. Perfect. Right. You started off with the perfect mindset. I would say this depends on how much money you have and how much money your dollar cost averaging out. Do I think you should sit in stable coins? Absolutely not. Not unless those stable coins are generating a decent yield for you and you can't do better through other means. So I would say this all comes down to the kind of person you are. For me, for instance, I'm very accustomed to writing, business plans, pro formas. I have, enough of a network, let's say, that I'm involved in other things outside of crypto that I don't necessarily have to depend on crypto to put them to use. This is where I'm talking about getting your tax situation right. Because at the end of the day, firstly, you want to make sure that you're not getting taxed through the hilt. And that's going to come down to, is it worth you moving to another jurisdiction? Is it worth you going through an LLC or a corporate or offshore or whatever it makes sense to pull your money out? And only you can do your research on that. But save as much tax as you can, or put yourself in a situation where you can save as much tax as you can if you were to bring it out of crypto. And then, depending on the amount, I mean, look, depending on how experienced or savvy or opportunities that you have at hand, I would look to invest that in other areas, right? I mean, real estate's always good, of course. Like every market, it has its ups and its downs. You got to make the right decision if you want to focus in one particular area of real estate. For me, single family homes have been really good. I could buy them. It means I can leverage the amount I have. Say, you have 100,000 plus. Well, that doesn't necessarily need to be one house, right? Providing you have a decent enough income that you can show that once it's rented out, you can buy a house and you'll end up gaining some cash flow from it. It's a good enough investment. Again, that's a exercise in itself, trying to find something that has built-in equity, because with real estate, the money's made on the front end as opposed to when you sell it. You got to, just like crypto, buying essentially in a bear market, right? But even something like that. Learn how to leverage money intelligently, not gambling. But if you're able to take, several loans out on $100,000 after closing costs, you're basically, you have up to 10 that you can continue recycling that money where it makes sense. It's not easy. It's getting harder and harder now to find deals, but that's just one avenue. But I would look to do that because that has a good way of cash flowing. You're building equity. It's essentially, a better savings account, probably better than putting it into a stable coin, at least right now. Who knows what the landscape looks like when you're looking to dollar cost average out. But I would look to, like you said, if you've got the right mentality, you're looking to get back in and sell at the top and get back in at the bottom, right? You can do that in a better way than just buying stable coins. So look into some of those things. And look, this is important too. And I think I've asked this a couple of times, for anyone watching this, that, some of the avenues that I've invested in, not just real estate, restaurants and bars and stuff like that. It takes, yeah, I'm happy to show you guys a lot of that stuff too. I had the luxury of having, being able to show Walrus and RG3, when that premiere thing was happening. And so like it was great. And I imagine having, being able to have more meetups and things, especially when my studio is built out, and really being able to really focus on bringing in some key guests and stuff that really ventures into other ways or other avenues of finance and investment that also kind of circle back to crypto and get their take on it. I'm hoping to bring a lot of really exciting stuff um to the conversation here, because I think a lot of people are interested in what you asked, Hazel, in terms of like what to do with it outside of crypto, because crypto is a bubble. And I don't mean a bubble in terms of like it's a bubble of interest that's going to break. I mean that people in crypto tend to get siloed into crypto only and start forgetting about some of these other peripheral options that are available. And it's important that, if you're going to think about crypto as being an integral part of your financial well-being, of your net worth, the sooner you synergize that with everything else, the better. It becomes like second nature to you. That's stuff that I'm working on now. Unfortunately, a lot of that is going to have to take place in the bull market, because if I brought money out now, it just it's a lot of money lost. I hope that answered your question a little bit. I know I didn't get, so in the weeds with that, but I think there's so many things to speak on. It's going to be a whole new video, perhaps. Bu- 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 Archie, I get it. I mean, you're probably still going to have to cash out, but it depends on your, yeah. I mean, look, there are ways you can look at this too. If you're not looking to get outside of crypto, because look, I hear the argument that um crypto is the biggest, meanest, bestest, return on investment ever known to man. Yeah, I see that. I see that argument too. However, we're talking about bear versus bull here, right? And so, if we're looking to cash out, you probably don't want to keep buying more crypto as the market's going down. So there is a time to cash out, or at least, exit your position intelligently. And here's where I'll talk about different jurisdictions. And again, this is maybe going in the weeds, and this is probably worth other videos, and maybe too advanced really for a lot of folks who are just like looking to make some money from the, new crypto portfolio. But when you look at places like Portugal, Dubai, Puerto Rico, um, shit, continents in Africa, Slovenia, there are a lot um, of places where the facilitation of crypto purchasing is very doable. And so, within real estate, for instance, what's the form called? Shit, is it a I can't remember the form. Damn. Okay, but there's a way in crypto, in real estate, for instance, if you sell out of a property, providing you buy another one as an investment in a short, I think it's like a 12-month period within that tax year, you can push your tax down the road a little bit, right? You're essentially saving. You're able to keep growing your business and not get taxed right away. There are ways you can do that with crypto in other jurisdictions too. It's a bit of a way around the system. And so rather than paying taxes on your crypto and your asset, if it's in the same LLC, if it's, there's a lot of hoops you got to jump through that, like, that's right, 1031 exchange. Let me highlight that. That's what it's called, folks. But yeah, you can essentially do this in crypto. And that's something we'll be touching on as we get into the bull cycle too, as we start looking to take money out, or take value out and put it to work elsewhere. And you may not need to cash out. And this is the beauty of really kind of diversifying your financial footprint, from the accounts you're using, from the way the tax liability, from even being involved, because you got to weigh things up, right? You move to, I don't know, Panama, you ask Randy, I'm not sure if he's done this, but you can get a secondary passport pretty easily in Panama if you want to cash out of or transfer value, let's say, of some of your crypto into, and it's a pretty low amount. But if you want to put some money to work in Panama, that's essentially all it takes to get naturalized within like 3 to 5 years. You can get a secondary passport. And I'll tell you, you should be having, anyone should be having three, four, five passports. It's not tough to get. And it doesn't always, and not everyone. As soon as you have enough money to do so, where investment visas and taking a vested interest in a country is a catalyst to doing so, as soon as that happens, you should be doing that because that adds to your footprint, that adds to your safety, your control, your diversification with your life, with your family. All of this stuff plays a big role, and it's a process that the sooner you get started, the better. So yeah, multiple passports, multiple avenues, looking at various ways to not just save on tax, but well, I mean, saving on tax is huge, but other investment avenues that allow you to transfer value in the right way. These are all opportunities that are continuing to evolve and open. Like I'm looking into now Singapore. One of my friends actually is at a bank in Singapore, and I'm that's one of the harder jurisdictions if you're not a resident to set up an account. But there, I may talk about this in future videos too. But that's another way to really navigate the space. I'll leave it. I'll leave it there. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Fantastic content as always. Totally agree about the bubble or ecosystem, DCAing out, being constructive, corrective. Yep, love it. Thank you. Appreciate your kind words. I'm happy to talk about it too, because honestly, these are areas that I love, and I often feel like there's a bit of a lack between the synergy, or certainly a lot of the what folks are speaking about. Not to say that if you're watching a crypto video, you want to get crypto value out of it. Totally get that too. But there seems to be a lot of synergy that's missed out on between real world TradFi, whatever you want to call it, and crypto, and that's hopefully an area that I can synergize on a little bit more. And again, a lot of this is very exciting to talk about. However, it requires money to do so. So it's almost pointless right now for the majority of people to learn and get excited at the same time because we're still waiting for the returns. But certainly as we get closer, I'll start putting out more content about that. But it as a distraction, right? As putting it out in the universe and becoming more acclimated to what it's actually going to take to reap the rewards that you've sown. Then maybe we can talk about that kind of on the lead up too, just to make sure that certainly everyone in this community has a much better idea, or at least they have my 2 cents on what it takes. Okay, let me see. What do you suggest if I'm literally out of dry powder, you and everyone else, to DCA the lows and have a bunch of debt? Would you consider diversifying into other products with small four-figure investments? Nope. If you have debt, I would probably focus on paying that debt first if you've already gained some kind of position, right? It's not mandatory to keep DCAing in. It's just a vehicle that you can use in a down market to strengthen your position right now for you. And again, I'm not a financial advisor. I don't know the ins and outs of your personal situation, but I would say this: take a hybrid approach. Don't feel like you're missing out on investing just because you've got some debt. Everyone's got debt. Debt's not a bad thing, right? And maybe this debt is, right? Maybe it's credit card debt and you're in the hole and you got to start paying it off. Here's what I would do: transfer, if it is credit card debt, obviously transfer that over to a 0% APR, 18, 24 months. They're out there. There's a million of them there. Transfer it over to that. So at least your down payment's lower. Restrict the amount of spending. Start living like a pauper within your means, which may allow you to DCA the same thing. And it depends on your work schedule. I always say this too, right? If you don't have much money to DCA in and you want to sacrifice the next 2 years, next year to strengthen your position, go and get a part-time job. Start driving Uber. It sounds like hell, right? You may already have a really hard job. You want to come home and relax, but ultimately you're going to be thanking yourself when you have been able to gain more of a position. So again, your question there dangerously toes the line of financial advice. I'm just going to give you my opinion, and that's: don't neglect the debt. You can control it a little bit more, but that doesn't matter if you're still adding to that debt constantly because you're putting all your money into, DCAing into in a down market. Try to strike a balance, right? Make the loan a bit more feasible, a bit easier to maintain, so you're still keeping on top of it, but then also then give yourself the leeway and the extra funds if you can to start dollar cost average or to keep dollar cost averaging in. That's the beauty of this, right? You can navigate it. You have a strategy that you can, that fits you personally. You don't have to miss out on things. I'll say that too, right? You don't have to miss out on opportunities just because you have debt. Everyone in their life that's ever made anything of themselves has a lot of debt. I have more debt than I have net worth. That's just how things are done, really, right? Unless you win the lottery. but that's also how you make money. I'm not going to use my own money to buy something outright. If I can leverage favorable loans to make it happen, that's just the way the world works. Have you done any research on Trust Token when it's time to cash out big bags? Nope. I haven't. Nothing that would be useful to you anyway. Nor is ban. I get it. Staking is long term play, more conservative, but there are other places for sure. And look, only you know what's going to play to your strengths, to your position, right? All right, folks. Well, we're like an hour and 9 minutes. I've loved this. This was a very easy second stream. So thank you everyone who's been a part of it. To be honest with you, I love the questions. Let me know. Hit the like button. Let me know if there's anything that, if I did bring value, great, love it. I'll post this too. So feel free to retweet, tweet, follow me if you're already not. Some good ideas here too. And honestly, I love hearing that, there is an interest in stuff that is not just crypto centric, but ties into crypto maybe, but also, peels into other areas too, because it's super interesting and it's not that tough to learn. You can put yourself in a very different situation just by learning about some of this stuff. You don't have to make a lot of money to protect yourself. There's a million and one ways to better your situation, but appreciate it. Addie, love it. Jordy, appreciate it. Hazel, awesome. I've really enjoyed this. So I'm going to go, guys. Thank you again. And yeah, stay tuned. I'll try and do more of these if I can. See ya.